Sorry, we'll wait, I guess. Okay, hi. My name is Haley Johnson. I will be presenting on how Utah got its rocks, otherwise the geological history of Utah. If you hear my cat, he loves attention, and he's not getting it right now because I'm doing this, so I apologize. Anyways, I understand this poster's not picking up very well on camera. I will submit it with my video so it's easier to see. But I've split my presentation up into two parts. First, we have just the general timeline of Utah, and then I've picked out some interesting Utah formations, geological formations, that we'll go a little more in depth about. So we'll start off down here at the Precambrian. Geological timelines always start from bottom to top, oldest to youngest. So we're going to start at the oldest. So the Precambrian was from 4.5 billion years ago to 541 million years ago. And because this is so old, lots of the rocks have been eroded and don't really exist anymore. We don't see a lot of evidences of them. But where we are getting evidences is in northern Utah and some sediment in western Utah. Next we have the Paleozoic era, which is from about 550 million years ago to 290 million years ago. And this is where we really see the rocks of Utah forming. At this time, Utah was covered in a shallow sea, which led to a warm and arid environment. Because there's a lot of movement in a shallow sea, the types of rocks we're seeing are very fine-grained rocks, such as sandstone, siltstone, mudstone. I have some sandstone things to show you. I'm trying not to drop them. So this one has little mud cracks, which just is when the water evaporates and it leaves behind the cracks of how the water ran. A little more of the sandstone. We're also getting evaporates during this time, which is when the water evaporates, obviously, and leaves behind the, I can't remember if they're cations or ions, which minerals they are, but it leaves behind more saltier minerals. I have an example. This is some gypsum with some sandstone on top. I don't know if you can see the crystalline structure. It leaves a very distinct crystalline structure because it's evaporating and creating bonds, obviously. Next we have the Mesozoic era, which is from about 280 million years ago to 138 million years ago. During this time, there was a very iron-rich environment, which led to a lot of the formation of the red rocks found here in southern Utah. A lot of this was formed during the Triassic, which is a period during the Mesozoic. Other than that, we're not really seeing just a lot of red rocks, red sandstone, red limestone being deposited. So the next era we have is from about 140 million years ago to now. Very long period. It is the Cenozoic. Obviously, because it is the most recent, it's where we're seeing the most evidence, and really the things we can track the best. So during this time, Utah had a lot of volcanic activity. You can see that a lot as you drive to St. George, going over the Black Ridge, and as you go into St. George, if you've ever been to the lava tubes, see a lot of evidence of that volcanic activity. I also have a very small chunk of diorite. I don't know if you can see that very well. Which again, I found this in northern Utah, which again leads to, there was volcanic activity happening up there. This is also where we get the formation of our ore deposits. As most of you probably know, Utah is very well known for its copper mining, and this is when the copper is being deposited. During this time, we're also seeing a lot of evidence of glacial activity. That's when we're getting the formation of the Uintas and how they get such jaggedy edges because glaciers are very good at erosion. This is also the period where Lake Bonneville is covering most of the state. Now, during this period, we're seeing the coverage of Lake Bonneville. We're also seeing the evaporation of Lake Bonneville, leaving behind the Great Salt Lake, which is about right up here, which will lead into our next point. We're going to go over the Bonneville Salt Flats. So the Bonneville Salt Flats are salty sediment that is left behind by the evaporation of Lake Bonneville. It turns into this hard, much like I showed you, gypsum, halite, salty minerals that harden, create this crust. Periodically, that area does flood, building up more of this sediment. Again, let's see, just making sure I didn't miss anything. This has also become a very popular recreation area. You can't see it, but the little icon I have is a race car, because every year they will do races on the salt flats because they are flat and they're a perfect speedway. Next, I wanted to go over the Bryce Canyon National Park, a little something close to home. The picture is some hoodoos. Can't see them very well, but some hoodoos. So this was formed during the Cenozoic era, so the most recent era. It's formed from stream deposits carrying down sediments, depositing the sediments building up. Very similar to cave systems. When stalagmites and stalactites form, water drips down, forming these rock structures. So we're getting limestone, sandstone, siltstone, mudstone, and dolostone, very small particles that are forming. And as these areas are being eroded by the rivers that are depositing the sediments, wind, ice, it is leaving behind hoodoos, which are tall structures of rocks. I don't know how to explain it very well without a visual, but they are just pillars of rocks. Sometimes you'll get ones where they have a rock, it looks like a rock is kind of balancing on the top just because of the way they form. And then the third geological point I wanted to go over is Arches National Park. This one hits home. It's my favorite national park. I love Arches. So Arches is formed from the deposit of sandstone, and this would likely be during the Mesozoic, Cenozoic time. We're getting, again, the iron-rich red rocks, which is leading to these orange and red rocks that we see out in Moab. So we have the sandstone hills, basically, and water, wind, and ice erode the softer sediment, leaving behind the harder sediment, which creates the arches that it's so well known for. However, this park is constantly changing and is unfortunately not permanent. So in the next hundreds to million years, we will eventually see these arches disappear. But we may also see new arches form, which is super exciting. Yeah. Any questions? Any questions?